First off, I just want to express how thankful I am for this opportunity to be here and to be the strength coach at the University of South Carolina. I told the team the first time I ever got to address them about a week ago, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me aside from marrying my wife and the birth of my kids, but it's close. It's real close. It's that special, and been working my whole adult life for an opportunity like this. And I'm gonna squeeze every inch of opportunity I can out of it. So, what you guys got?
All right.
And what's up? What's up? Welcome in GC Live. That, of course, Luke Day. Not Luke Doty and not Ryan Day, who I'm sure at some point am going to mix up. But that, of course, new South Carolina strength coach, Luke Day, who I dare say stole the show yesterday as Shane Beamer spoke again and talked for, I don't know, maybe 30, 35 minutes, 40 minutes, something like that. And then, of course, introduced Torian Gray, new secondary coach for South Carolina. Jimmy Lindsay, new D-line coach for South Carolina. And then Luke Day, new strength and conditioning coach for South Carolina. We're going to talk about all three of those introductions from yesterday. I've got one more clip from Day that I'm sure y'all will want to see. If you haven't heard it or seen it already, go check that out, youtube.com/GamecockCentral. The entire video is on there. And this is, of course, GC Live. We are brought to you by Clint Hammond of Mortgage Network. A good buddy of mine, a great Gamecock, a Gamecock Central subscriber. And if you're in the market for a house, or if you just want to save some money on a refinance right now, this is a great time to get a great interest rate. Clint is, of course, the branch manager of the Mortgage Network group here in Columbia. You can reach him at Hammond at mortgagenetwork.com or give him a call, 803-771-6933. Or as you see at the top of our show every single day, you can actually just go to mortgagenetwork.com/Clint-Hammond. Again, 771-6933. That's an 803 area code. Great guy. He'll get you set up. And I think pretty much anybody can save money right now, unless you've had a new interest rate in the last couple of years. A refinance will save about anybody money right now. So, all right, y'all. Luke Day. I think, Chris, we got to start with him because that was maybe the buzz, I would say, on the message boards. I would say on Gamecock Twitter, just the friends of mine who are big Gamecocks that were texting me. This guy stole the show yesterday. And, dude, I think you just look, and it was very, very easy to see and hear why Shane Beamer made this guy his strength and conditioning coach. It didn't take long, basically.
Yeah, and I think this is a situation where, the strength hire took some time. It was one of those hires where a lot of people were going around saying, what's taking so long, blah, blah, blah. And, as Beamer said, and we can verify, Wes, there are a lot of different people talked to about this job. There was a lot of interest in the position. There was a lot of different feedback given. And, here's what I go back to. It always matters, the guys that you get in the end on your staff, that's the most important thing, right? And there's been a lot of talk about that lately. Like Shane Beamer's even mentioned it. There's been so much talk about the people that aren't here, whether it's players, whether it's coaches, and he wants to focus on the ones that are here. I think that what you get, whether it's in recruiting, your coaching staff, your final product is what counts. And when you look at Luke Day, we heard a lot of good things about him during the process from people that we've spoken with in Marshall who are familiar with him in the strength and conditioning industry. They think that a lot of them said, look, players love this guy. He's really different. And so for me, I look at what Shane Beamer has sort of pointed to what he wants his program to be, what he sort of aspires for it to be. And he talks a lot about culture. And again, we've said this a lot too on this program. Are you using culture as a buzzword? Are you actually trying to cultivate it and take moves and move pieces around to cultivate that? Luke Day is a culture driver type of strength coach. And he talked about it yesterday. Yeah, they want to be strong. Technically, they want to be really good there. But it's also about developing men, having great relationships with your players. And I thought that stood out. I thought a lot of what he said, he talked a lot about just, philosophical things, or he talked a lot about, developing the man, and he talked a lot about relationships. And those are the types of things that I think South Carolina can use within its strength program to be, a differentiator for them, which is really what they need.
No question, man. And, you look and it's not, I think you look back, it's not that somebody like Paul Jackson did a bad job, because I actually don't think Paul Jackson did a bad job at all. I think Paul Jackson just got caught up. I mean, we've talked about this in the coaching industry. You can get let go because you're caught up in the midst of a coaching change, and it maybe doesn't mean anything about you as a coach. I don't think Paul Jackson did anything wrong as a coach, and I think if he had been kept on, I think he would have done a fantastic job as well. There's many good strength coaches that are out there, and I do think, though, if you look at Luke Day and you look at sort of the track record at Marshall and the fact he followed Scott Strickland and what you hear about how much they liked him there, and then the early indications that we've heard here, I've heard the guys so far love him. That's not uncommon for a new strength coach, but certainly, I think you used the word holistic. That was a word that, Pete Limbo used to describe his approach to special teams as well. And I think you sort of see that already. You see that approach really in the way he approaches life. There is even a little bit of like a Southern preacher feel to his delivery, but the guy's a great communicator, man. You can tell he's intelligent. You can tell he communicates. I think he sounds genuine. It doesn't sound like somebody who's just, selling the idea, selling himself. It sounds like there's a genuine approach to this. So I think it matters how bad he wanted the job. He used the word gratitude as sort of his message in his very first meeting with the team. And I think all those things just sort of exude from this guy's personality and aura. Is just, this is one of those people that wakes up every day pretty excited about what they get to do on that given day.
Yeah. And it's, I think, a lot of honesty too, in talking about sort of how he shaped his philosophy with how he approaches the weight room and how he approaches sort of player development, person development, was shaped by some struggles that he went through that he didn't get into. But, talking about struggling, well, I mean, what you have here is there is a different feel now. Now, what we don't know, Wes, we have no idea in 3 years, does this translate to wins or not? I mean, I don't know. But what we do know is that there's been a lot of positivity in the building. Maybe part of that was just because there's a changeover period. But I do think there's been a concerted effort to sort of change the vibe and change the feel and approach things differently. And that's certainly been done, whether you're talking about a guy like Pete Limbo, bringing on just a special teams guy who sort of has a different approach, who's been a head coach before, he's got a different sort of perspective. You add guys like Luke Day and Eric Kimry. Day talked about their budding bromance, I think he said yesterday. I mean, you walk into one of their meetings, I mean, you might be just as likely to start, hearing, philosophy musings and quotes than talking about football or how to squat or whatever it may be. And so I do think it's just an interesting and a unique approach. But one thing we do know is that at Marshall, it's not like Luke Day stepping into his first ever head job. He got the head job after Scott Sinclair moved over to Georgia. Luke Day was promoted, and Luke was loved by those players there. When Scott Sinclair was there and Luke was an assistant, and then when he got up into the head job, people around there really, really loved him. And so I think he's going to bring very much a unique approach, and it'll be really interesting to watch it play out. But I think it's going to be really a welcomed thing and a welcome change here.
Let's hit a couple of these questions, and I'm going to play one more Luke Day clip that I have queued up. Jeffrey Hicklin wants to know, what's the word on Muschamp being on the Georgia staff, and would that change the buyout I'll lean on you on this one, Chris, but that's something that actually, it's being reported now. I think it was first by the AJC that he's actually there, that he's in the building. They weren't sure exactly what his role is going to be, but that's something, you've reported. Well, you've told me, I believe you reported, I believe you put it on the Insider Forum a while back that this is where it was probably headed. I don't think this was some big secret that he was going to end up at Georgia. It's been floating around as a possibility for a long time. Obviously, Jackson Muschamp is there, the connections to the school and that he graduated there. Kirby Smart, his buddy, and I would say his frenemy as far as their time at Georgia and South Carolina. But I think at the end of the day, actually really good friends. So it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and we did drop that note probably a couple different times on the Insiders Forum, and we don't know if something else will eventually take shape, but the plan has been to do an off-field role in Georgia. Muschamp is not the type of guy to really take time completely detached from coaching or completely detached from football, and certainly had some other opportunities, whether it was potential of going back to Texas, some other calls around the SEC or nationally to be a defensive coordinator or a defensive coach. But this move made the most sense for all the reasons that you listed, Wes. So our expectation, and could something change to where he's on the field perhaps, but the expectation's been some type of off-field role at Georgia for a while. As for the buyout, no change there. There's no mitigation clause in Muschamp's past contract with South Carolina, which is actually, and I'm sorry guys, I can't remember the number, but most of the coaches in the SEC, I believe, do not have mitigation clauses. Some do, but I think that number is actually into what you can classify as a majority. That a lot of them, we'll put it that way, a lot of them don't have mitigation clauses as head coaches from when they find employment. That's one of the perks of being an SEC head coach. You get a really, really nice contract. So,
and then a really nice payday when you leave. Appreciate that, though, Jeffrey. Appreciate that tip as well. Tyler, appreciate the tip from you. Says, I appreciate you guys. I'm getting off the free 99. What does that mean?
Getting off the free 99. Tyler, you don't have to tip us to say it, but you'll have to give us a little clarification.
Does that mean he's off his free trial on Gamecock Central or something?
Maybe.
I don't know, man. But if you are, take that $9.99. That'll get you a full month on the site as opposed to 1 day on here. So let's see where I was just reading something. Y'all go too fast. Somebody, are y'all talking about Muschamp? Steven said the Athletic reported he's not, quote, hired. I'm guessing talking about Muschamp. Tyler just says he's not watching for free anymore. Okay. Hey, we appreciate that, man. We appreciate the tip. And let's see. If I haven't seen it, maybe the Athletic did say that about Muschamp, whether it's official or not official or whatever. That's the expected outcome.
It's happening. Whether it was yesterday, today, tomorrow, like it's happening, and it's been happening for a long time. So that's really, that's everything else a little bit semantics at this point.
Yeah, it's going down. All right, here is Luke Day. I'm telling you, man, this guy is fantastic. I was sitting there going through his presser. I was like, I could use half of this stuff for the show today, and I should have we could have come on, introduced it, and then just reran him for 30 minutes. But here's one more clip from Luke Day yesterday when he was introduced.
A man that can draw out the version of a young man he could not elicit himself. And if these kids could just train and we hand them a packet, we should just send them to the rec center. But if you can put the right people around him and I'm going to steal one of my favorite terms of just defining what a coach is from our senior associate or whatever I don't even know what we're allowed to call him yet, but Chip Morton, 27-year NFL head strength coach, is going to join us here and is here on this staff. Is man's heart are deep waters, and the insightful man, a real coach, draws that out of him. and there's deep water down there in the well, and we got to go dig it out. And that's what I have to do. Physically, this game is still about putting your hands on people and making them go where they don't want to go. And we have to train people that way. And there's a certain mindset that you have to do. There's a certain mentality that has to be taught and brought and instilled in people. And then a resilience. Like, it's one thing if you're a Ferrari type dude and you can go and you're explosive, that's great. But can you repeat it? Can you go round after round after round? And people that get trained that way, those are the people doing it the right way in this business, in my opinion.
That was Luke Day talking about what he thinks makes basically a really good strength and conditioning coach. So, again, you can see the energy. You can see the communication skills there. Just a lot to really like about that guy. Speaking of hires, and we're going to go back into some of the other stuff from yesterday, but before we get there and before I forget, we got to mention the official hire of Shaq Wilson. That's something that we had alluded to, and then we had reported was going to happen, and now is made official by South Carolina. This one took a little bit longer, I think, just because of the structure. You know, when you look at somebody like Byron Gerardo, who's coming in, he went from being on the strength staff at Tennessee to being on the strength staff here at South Carolina. With Shaq, it's more of a situation. He went from strength staff over there to actual off-the-field analyst on the defensive side of the ball here. I know they've still been in the process of structuring some of those things, but we're actually starting to see it become clearer. Some new names over there as well. But, Chris, with Shaq Wilson, this is the role, and ultimately, you know, maybe on-field actual assistant football coach, you know, in the future. But this is more along the lines of what I think probably fits Shaq best. And I believe probably what Shaq has wanted. I don't want to put, you know, words in his mouth, but I think you look, he was in recruiting here and had a pretty good role in that. He had a full-time job in recruiting here. Then he was on the strength staff at Tennessee, and I imagine that move was more towards sort of getting away from the recruiting side and getting a little bit more towards football, but you're still in strength and conditioning as opposed to actual football. Now you have a guy who was always known as one of the sort of smarter, instinctual, understands every football IQ guy, you know, when he was a player here. Now he's actually on the more football side of things. And I think this is a really good fit. It's a great get for South Carolina and a great situation for Shaq as well.
Yeah, totally agree. Great move for everyone involved. I mean, Beamer obviously with familiarity with Shaq, and Shaq with obviously a lot of familiarity here. And you're right. I remember you've been talking about this for a long time, Wes, even when Shaq was on staff here, like in the recruiting offices, the buzz then even was, you know, hey, one day Shaq's going to be more of an on-field guy, whether he's an on-field coach or whether he's doing something as an analyst type role. He's going to get back to that at some day. So this is that opportunity. And I mean, it's the best of both worlds for everyone involved. And so, like you said, really smart guy. I think is going to really mesh well with the rest of the staff there. Has a really good football mind. Is going to be able to, you know, if he has the opportunity on campus when prospects come on, I think he'll be able to be part of that, you know, as much as allowed, because he has an experience of playing at South Carolina and then getting into coaching. And I think he's going to be able to help in a lot of different in a variety of ways for South Carolina.
Yeah, dude, I remember all the way back when Shaq was coming out of high school down in Jacksonville, First Coast High School, I think, and a guy that just was very, very productive in high school. Big get for South Carolina at the time. Was a little bit undervalued just because of his size, basically his height. That's what kept him from being one of these just stud type recruits, as opposed to what it ended up being. I think like a high 3-star type kid. But it's funny, you know, you look all the way back and how long it's been since that was, and played at Carolina, played a lot, then, you know, was obviously in the recruiting deal, and then was at Tennessee, and now he's back home. And I think for guys like him, for guys like Gerardo, it means a lot. It seems to mean a lot to be back home, and the fans. I like how the fan base has really embraced the return of these guys as well. So, we already talked about Jared being back, but for both those guys who almost left as a package deal, it seems like, and it's only fitting that they both come back, to South Carolina at the same time. Speaking of Jared and speaking of the strength staff, so Luke Day also very just nonchalantly dropped a huge tidbit yesterday, something that had, I guess gotten past all of us. I don't think I had heard this at all. Maybe you had, Chris, but
yeah, I did. And,
you had?
Yeah, and I didn't follow up on it as much as I could have, Wes. That's okay. Sore spot.
Man.
Yeah.
Well, sorry to bring that up, but Chip Morton, 27-year strength coach veteran, a guy that I go back and look, and he was the Bengals' actual head strength coach in the NFL, Washington football team head strength coach, Panthers strength coach, had some assistant strength coach times in the NFL as well. And I'm telling you, man, God, to just bring in a veteran like that as an assistant and to be someone that he can sort of lean on, he being, Luke Day, that's got to be huge for these guys, I think.
It is. It's something you can point to in recruiting of, hey, you've got sort of the head guy who's a real culture driver and obviously knows what he's doing in the weight room too, and Luke Day. And that's something for the players and for prospective players that you can certainly sell to the prospects and their families. But you've also got, hey, even one of our assistants, a guy that's got, years and years of experience and has been at the highest level, football training players at that level. That's something that's big. And, then you carry it over to, the defensive staff, all of them, almost all of them now played in the NFL. So they've got, they've got some pro, and that's one thing you've noticed. Shane Beamer's discussed it, but that hasn't been a huge point of just constantly pointing to it. They've talked a lot more about culture and development of the person and things like that, but they do have that point in that, hey, our guys know how to develop pros. A lot of them have been at the pro level themselves. Even Jimmy Lindsay has not coached in the pros or played in the pros defensive line coach, but he's done, I think, 4 different internships with the NFL ball club. So he's certainly been around the pro game as well. So they certainly have that aspect, and it's going to carry over into the weight room. So yeah, Morton was a big hire for Luke Day, a guy that obviously he has a really good relationship with. And we don't know, aside from him, Wes, do you know any more, him and Jared to fill out the rest of the strength staff under Luke Day? I don't know any more names. If any guys from Marshall will follow, but we'll be trying to run that down as well.
Yeah, I imagine, there's some more hires to be made, or maybe even some hires that have probably quietly already taken place or are taking place. There's a process to all these things, but generally, it seems like if we can sort of go off the MO of Beamer and all his other hires, this staff probably at about every spot is going to be a combination of people connected to Beamer and, that he's comfortable with, or someone connected to that particular coach. So, for example, defensive staff is, a guy like Torian Gray that's got these strong connections to Beamer. Then you look at Jimmy Lindsay, a guy that's got these strong connections to Clayton White. You look at the strength coach deal, obviously Luke Day tied in with Morton, I guess, but Jared, former Gamecock, who Shane Beamer actually recruited to Columbia out of JUCO. So, it sort of, I guess, there's an MO sort of developing about these hires and guys who I think we're seeing strong proof that guys that want to be here is sort of a criteria, is sort of a from some things we've also heard behind the scenes. That's been a big part of this. They don't really want guys that they have to necessarily beg to be here. They want guys who are willing to run through a wall to get here. And I think with Luke Day especially, you have that. And great visual by him that he created, though, because I was just picturing this deranged strength coach coming into the building and not getting the job, and then having to be literally handcuffed and thrown out and sent on his way back to West Virginia.
Deranged. That's a great word. That would have been quite a scene. He was staging a shakedown there of Beamer in the facility. I'm on the way.
My man just got in the car and started driving.
And did he have? I mean, so they said he had another staffer who had not been hired. Was that Chip Morton also, or was? I mean, was it Jared? I mean, who was it? We don't know. That's another mystery we need to run down. But basically, Luke Day not only hired himself for the job officially, like he closed it out, but he basically made a hire himself, kidnapped that person on the way to the facility, and dragged that person in as well, and said, "Here I am."
And it worked out.
Hey, so well, we might as well go with this. No, that's not how it happened. But
maybe they were just scared to tell him to leave. Like I feel like they're like, this guy is this guy's got some conviction in what he's saying. So I can just imagine him chugging cold brew, all hyped up, ready to roll. Like, y'all ain't kicking me out of here. I'm in here now.
That was very interesting to me, because I think the cold brew, just my opinion, a little bit more of a controlled, like caffeinated state, right? The Red Bull, a little bit more, my heart may explode type of thing. The cold brew, depending on how much you have, a little bit more in control, a little bit more philosophical and measured. So just my opinion. Now, if you have like 2 or 3 of them, like I would be very tempted to do.
So the cold brew is like it's like a boost, but it's a little more like controlled boost type thing, you think?
Well, because it's coffee, I mean, like it's coffee at the end of the day instead of, it's like Charles said, the last time he had a Red Bull, he's vibrating in a bad way. Yeah,
bad way. That's opposed to a good vibration.
It's sort of like some of the pre-workouts. Like I know you and I both mess with some pre-workout less. So I found one at one point where it definitely makes your skin crawl a little bit, but it is more relaxed and mellow. But you can also get some like the ones you buy for like $5 on Amazon or something, where it is, I may die at any moment. So,
I'm not a huge pre-workout fan anymore, man, because my skin will feel funny. One time my heart just felt like it was literally like my hand was shaking. I felt like I was my heart was gonna explode. It's like I don't know about all this stuff. Adam wants to know what Dave's reaction was to seeing the facilities. I wish I could tell you, man. I wish I had been there. I'm sure it was pretty awesome. I've heard they're installing some type of turf within part of the weight room now as well. I need to confirm that. But
breaking news.
Yeah, but I've heard they're going to make some slight little changes, putting some turf in there. Because all strength coaches, all trainers, people like that, they all have their slight little things that they believe in as far as that ultimately get you to hopefully the same goal as far as building strength, keeping you conditioned, getting bigger or getting smaller depending on what your goal is or what your need is. But they all have little things they sort of lean on the most and like to make little changes. So that'll be interesting. We've got to see maybe Chris post, like once this vaccine is rolled out and hopefully everything is back a little bit more normal, maybe we can go get put through a Luke Day workout, huh?
I don't know, man, because
you and Alyssa Lang did one, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, we did. So, and that was very emasculating. But see, so the thing is about that is not Day, I would feel even worse about myself because, not only would I be completely inadequate from a workout standpoint, but then I would be like, wow, I'm a really bad person because, or maybe he would be able to completely improve me in that 1 hour or whatever. where I'd come out of there feeling like I just attended therapy or something.
He
But
would draw it out of you, man.
Yeah, so that is the point. I'd probably feel bad about myself going in. Exiting, I'd probably feel bad from a physical standpoint, but maybe mentally he could help me. So maybe we need to do that. Let's put in our request and see what we got going.
I think it would be fun. Was that Joe Connolly that put you and Alyssa through the paces?
That was Coach Joe Connolly, and he very much. I mean, he took it very, very easy. I mean, that was not an extreme workout. I think, Coach Connolly was probably worried about me killing over or something and didn't want that on his conscience. So it was a little bit more like, yeah, just do some of this and we'll time you in this and that kind of thing. So, and that was probably for the best, to be honest with you.
The stuff some of these guys have to do, or all these guys have to do, man, like the 110s, running those.
Yeah.
Awful.
Murderous. Yeah.
What did they have to do? Like 26 110s or something at some point last year? I think that's part of the fitness test. And so you're running like the entire length of the field plus an end zone. And
running it fast. It's not a little leisurely jog.
And it has to be by a certain time,
right,
in order for it to count.
Yep.
That's stupid. That's crazy.
Man, I'm bleeding in here again. Oh
yeah. Why are y'all so, mean to Chris?
I know I don't look great today, or really any day, especially not today. Not my best day today, but I'm here. I'm pushing through. So
yeah, today Chris is feeling a little bit under the weather, I think. But he's still here. He's still here to hang out with y'all and talk, and y'all just bashing the crap out of him. Torian Gray, man, the thing I took away, I was trying to think today, what did I take away from each person who spoke? The thing I took away from Torian Gray was when he said DBU, the new DBU, and he really seems to be leaning on that and seems to be planning to use that. And I think you look, if you're him and you say, all right, I know the guys I've coached at in my past, and I know the guys South Carolina has had in their past. That's a pretty good track record from sort of both ends of this thing to tell other kids, hey man, we can get you to the league here. So, I think it sounds like he plans to lean on that both as a recruiting pitch, but also he mentioned it with the current players and basically said, look, we have to have this as a standard to try and live up to, because let's be honest, there is a ton of inexperience in that room right now. Not a lot of guys returning who have played a bunch or played at a high level. And it seems like his mindset is, I'm going to try to build the confidence in these kids from moment one.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and Torian Gray, I think very much a business-like sort of approach, but you're right. I mean, he's been at schools, and including South Carolina, right? South Carolina's got a good tradition that has spanned multiple coaches, multiple eras in sending defensive backs to the NFL. They've had a pretty good run on that. But trying to get back there to where they're producing more of that talent on a regular basis is certainly something he's harped on. And, Torian's someone who's played in the NFL for a while, had a career-ending injury that forced him to retire a bit early. But he's played in the NFL. He's coached in the NFL in Washington. He's been at Virginia Tech, has a nice defensive history, a lot of defensive backs that were produced under Frank Beamer there. And then to Florida, which obviously, again, spanning several coaches, several eras, a nice track record of defensive backs there as well, and now at South Carolina. So a lot of familiarity, again, on that staff. And one thing we knew early on, even in the process that eventually led to Shane Beamer during the head coaching search at South Carolina, we knew that Torian Gray was a guy that could eventually be brought on. But it got to a point to where when they were still looking for the defensive coordinator, what would be his thoughts, et cetera. And Clayton White certainly signed off on wanting to hire Torian Gray, and Shane Beamer has raved about him as a person, as a coach. certainly thinks very high of him with his track record. So he should be able to help them, I think, some in Florida. You know, he's a Florida native on the recruiting trail, should be able to give them some ends there, and is also highly regarded as a coach on the field.
By the way, Chris, a little bit of somewhat breaking news as we're talking here on the show. South Carolina, I believe you can say now, has officially announced the hire of former Georgia Tech character development coach Derrick Moore. It appears they have reposted this video on the Gamecock football account. It says, "Welcome home" at Demo Speaks. And Derrick Moore, Chris, someone that I believe is sort of known as being one of the elites as far as the character development game. I don't know exactly how long he was at Georgia Tech. Maybe you can fill us in, Chris. Maybe you know a little bit more about him. But a guy that it seems like would be another in just a sort of, I would say, developing trend we're seeing of this approach to culture. And like you talked about, not just being, oh, we're going to create a great culture, you know, a buzzword type thing, because it is a buzzword, but they're sort of putting the hires behind that mantra as well.
Yeah, so been a character development coach or, you know, chaplain. I mean, he's sort of been named both those things during his time at Georgia Tech, where he's been, I'm not sure how, it's been a while, Wes. He's been there for quite a while from what I remember. Former NFL running back. He played at a small NAIA school in Northeastern State and set single season rushing record there. Actually made the NFL, played for the Falcons, the Lions, played for our Panthers, Wes, I think in one of the earlier seasons, maybe even the earliest season of the Panthers. And so, yeah, really well regarded. I mean, if you're a college football fan, odds are at some point or another you've seen a video of some sort, you know, circulating of Derrick Moore giving some type of locker room speech or motivational speech. So highly regarded on that. And like you said, Wes, new video up in the Gamecock football Twitter account where Derrick Moore is talking. So pretty passionate guy, motivational sort of figure. So I think another good hire on that front for Shane Beamer.
Dude, I'm going to have to go back and look. So Derrick Moore was on that 1995 Panthers team, expansion team, right? And I think was their leading rusher that year. He was number 20. And I may have met him when I was a kid because I went to a Panthers autograph session with my dad, and I waited in line, and Kerry Collins was the big name that was there.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, I was like 9 years old at the time. So meeting Kerry Collins, I mean, that was like a straight up thrill. But I had these Panthers cards that I was going through, and I was meeting guys and trying to find their cards and then getting them to sign their particular cards and stuff. But I'm pretty sure that I've got a Derrick Moore autographed Panthers card at my house. So it is funny, sort of small world nature of college football or the football world in general. And that's pretty neat, though. I didn't.
That is neat. Does that make you feel old? A little bit.
Well, I mean, a little bit, yeah, but I feel old every day, man. Anyway.
The old thing for me, so I mean, first of all, J.C. Horn being Joe Horn's son was definitely made me feel old. And that's starting to happen more of like there's rivals profiles for guys where you're like, wait, there's a rivals profile for that guy's dad too when I was covering it. The probably the worst one that's happened to me recently is I was watching one of the playoff games this past weekend, and Antoine Winfield made a play. And I was like, wait a minute, Antoine Winfield, like, is he still playing? Like, that's how old. And then I was like, no. He would have been like 50 years old now. Probably not, but it was his son.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, because like I've just been watching NFL for so long that I recognized Antoine Winfield and was like, wow, made me feel old.
Yeah, it'll catch up to you, man. SC Scout guy said, "I bet that Wes wore a Panther starter jacket to school." I had an old school Charlotte Hornets starter jacket when I was younger. I also had my heavy coat. I had a massive, just like twice as wide as me, black Carolina Panthers jacket that I used to wear all the time. When the Panthers became a thing, like when I was young, I was a huge Panthers fan. I mean, could name everybody on the roster level Panthers fan. So that's cool, man. I'm sort of fanboy, kind of excited about Derrick Moore getting the job. That's pretty awesome. I've got to go back and see if I have that card somewhere at my parents' house. Were you about to say something? I feel like you were reading something over there or had something to say.
I was looking at some of the nostalgic comments and I was thinking about others. I mean, dude, do you remember? Because I know we're both long-suffering Panthers fans. Do you remember the Super Bowl trip?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That was simultaneously one of the most fun and depressing things ever.
Yeah, well, didn't John Casey kick the ensuing kickoff out of bounds after we had scored to go up and had come back? I mean, that was a great Super Bowl.
I think it set the record at the time for the longest pass in Super Bowl history. I think that was Jake Delhomme to Muhsin Muhammad, I think, was one of the long. And Jake Delhomme was out there talking trash. I mean, it was fantastic. It was, man.
Now Muhsin Muhammad's kid plays for Texas A&M.
We saw him in camp, I think, last summer or the summer before. Not this past summer, obviously, but I think the summer before his high school team was in Columbia at 7-on-7. So, yep.
Yep. So cool, great hire for South Carolina, though. It seems another strong hire as far as off the field roles go. Let's see. Let's not forget this, Chris. This one won't mean as much to everyone, but still, it's important to put it out there who South Carolina is hiring for these various roles. And Ahmad Smith will also come on to South Carolina's staff on the defensive side of the ball as a quality control / analyst type role. He actually worked with the Nickelbacks the last 2 years at Western Kentucky. Of course, that would be with Clayton White, South Carolina's new defensive coordinator. So that's, again, Ahmad Smith. And, Chris, I actually turned on a little bit of Western Kentucky, like a game on YouTube when I was just sitting around doing some work earlier, was wanting to get a little bit of feel for their scheme. And, I think up front, this thing, it looks to me a little bit more similar, at least the defensive front, to what South Carolina does than maybe people are going to expect. I mean, there was a lot of stand-up pass rush guys on the edge for what I saw, where your defensive ends are standing up and look sort of like the way South Carolina uses the buck. That stood out to me. The other thing that stood out was I know coaches like to use the words aggressive. It's another buzzword these days. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to be aggressive. But in the little bit I saw, this is the Louisville game, they actually were extremely aggressive. Lots of single high safety, extra guy in the box, bringing extra rushers, incredibly aggressive as far as stopping the run, and their linebackers getting downhill and attacking the backfield. That was against the team at the time. I think that was earlier in the year where Louisville was maybe a run first team, and their quarterback was running the football quite a bit. So I think they were trying to force them to maybe beat them through the air more than anything. But that was my very quick takeaway from this scheme. And we're seeing, with Ahmad coming in, Ahmad Smith, and then of course yesterday Jimmy Lindsay officially being introduced, a few guys who have a history and have a background and sort of already know the intricacies of this defense. And, somebody coming in and working with the nickels, if you're a guy like Ahmad Smith, that maybe quietly is an important role, because there are, I'm sure, a lot of working, pieces within this scheme.
Yeah, I mean, I heard a lot about, didn't know that it was specifically Ahmad at the time, but heard a lot about the role that, guy that turned out to be Ahmad played within that defense, just in terms of helping teach it and everything and working with the Nickelbacks. So I think that's a that's an important hire, just to give some more continuity. You've now got some guys who are, very familiar with each other in Lindsay and Clayton White. Ahmad Smith, although he'll be off field, is nonetheless a very important hire. And so I think that's good to have him, on campus, part of the staff, and then you'll mix in some new guys. You're obviously mixing in Torian Gray, on this staff as sort of an outsider, if you will, but someone that nonetheless has a good track record and is going to be able to, I think, work well with the rest of the defensive staff.
All right, so we've gone through some of the other guys. Jimmy Lindsay, of course, spoke yesterday. To me, Jimmy Lindsay, he's a little bit more the guy that's sort of a little bit more laid back. Obviously, we've been told build strong relationships with his guys, a strong recruiter as far as building relationships. Not going to be the guy that carries that sort of used car salesman vibe. Not going to be necessarily even the rah-rah type guy, it appears. But I would say more as far, especially speaking to the media yesterday, a little more matter of fact, a little more, hey, this is how things are. A little more, I'm not going to sort of BS you type guy. But what's maybe been your early takeaways listening to Jimmy Lindsay yesterday and just obviously the things we've heard about him otherwise?
Yeah, I think more serious and matter of fact. And when we were talking about him the other day, Wes, when he was, after we reported his hire, before he spoke to the media, I think one of the things we were talking about is how, he's really well liked by players, by high school coaches, people that know him within the industry, but he doesn't have this like bombastic type of personality. Like you said, not rah-rah or a salesman. He's a little bit more matter of fact, but he's had a lot of success where he's been, from a recruiting standpoint, development. He's coached, I think, 5 defensive players of the year, conference defensive players of the year. He's developed some All-Americans. He's developed a lot of all-conference picks. So he's pretty highly regarded in the industry. He's worked with some really good coaches, alongside some really good coaches, under some really good coaches. Ryan Nielsen is one that comes to mind, who's the Saints defensive line coach. The LSU just tried to hire as their coordinator. That's the guy he worked alongside. Pete Jenkins, the legendary former LSU defensive line coach who has a big sort of coaching tree, is another guy that Jimmy Lindsay, he's sort of a Pete Jenkins guy from that tree. So pretty highly regarded in the industry, but not going to be that super bombastic out there personality, just sort of a little bit more keeps his head down and works, but someone that players, you've heard from some of them, West, too, guys that he's recruited or coached in the past, they really, really like him.
No doubt, man. All right, so I think you look, and we've said this multiple times, but now I think we can really narrow it down. Chris, I really think we're going to be able to, at some point in the very soon future, report on an offensive line hire, and hopefully we can officially say that the on-field staff will then be complete.
Yeah, and let's just go ahead and talk about that a little bit if you're good with it. So the guy, and you mentioned this name, I think back on Thursday as being in the mix. We had another report this morning, Greg Adkins. 30, I went up, calculated it, 30 years this past year of experience across college football, a couple in the NFL with the Buffalo Bills, but he's been at Marshall, he's been at Tennessee. His tie to Coach Beamer is that he was the offensive line coach at the time at Tennessee when Shane Beamer and Marcus Satterfield were both grad assistants there, and then has experience at a variety of other schools as well. It was most recently at Marshall, his alma mater. Had a good offensive line there last year. Guy again that and worked with Luke Day too. My understanding is those two have a good relationship, good friendship as well, and similar philosophies. He's really a players type of coach, but has certainly done a really good job recruiting and developing during his career. So that's the guy that we're really zeroing in on in our reporting. And like you said, Wes, maybe in position here soon to say that it's even closer to happening.
We're going to throw a party at that point when the staff is complete.
Amen.
All of you are invited. So I'm not going to tell you where the party is. You have to find it. But everyone here listening or watching is invited to the staff is finally put together. Thank goodness party and we can all move forward with this thing. All right, y'all. Appreciate the time as always. Appreciate the support. Appreciate y'all listening, watching. Please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. Please leave a review on whatever deal it is. Justin says, Chris with the first accidental Luke Doty. Did he say Doty instead of Day?
Oh,
I didn't even catch it.
they're growing. You know, I'm really proud I haven't done Scott Satterfield yet. It's been close. But, yeah, Ryan Day, Luke Doty, Scott Satterfield. I'm sure there are others. May even do
It's going to happen
instead of Shane at some point. Might even do that one.
Yeah, it's going to happen. But I'm surprised I wasn't the first on the Luke Doty thing, to be honest with you, because that one's. And then I keep saying in my head Day, but then I'm like I'm going to say Ryan Day at some point. Especially what if Ryan Helinski was still on the team? So you would have had Luke Day, Ryan Helinski, Luke Doty. I mean, it's tough. It's a mess. But
yeah.
All right, y'all. Enjoyed it. Good show as always. No party invite. Y'all can come to the party, man. Appreciate y'all. For Chris, I'm Wes. We'll see you all. It'll probably be Friday. We'll see you all on Friday. Appreciate it.